Let me tell you something the burger industry doesn't want you to know. When they say 100% beef, they're playing word games that would make a politician jealous. Here's how the scam works. They take real beef, grind it up, then add water, salt, and a cocktail of preservatives. Technically, the meat portion is 100% beef. But the final patty? That's a different story entirely. Most major chains use what's called pink slime, mechanically separated beef that's been treated with ammonia to kill bacteria. It looks like strawberry soft serve ice cream and smells like a chemistry lab. This stuff was so controversial that even McDonald's had to stop using it after public outcry. But here's the kicker, they just found new ways to hide the same garbage. Now they use textured vegetable protein, soy concentrates, and something called beef flavor that's made in a lab, not a pasture. The average fast food burger patty is pumped full of sodium phosphates to hold water, giving you that juicy bite. But you're not tasting beef juice, you're tasting salt water and chemicals. 1/4 pound patty can contain over 800 milligrams of sodium before you even add the bun and condiments. And those grill marks you see? Half the time they're painted on with artificial smoke flavoring. Real beef doesn't need fake grill marks, but when your patty is 30% filler, you need all the help you can get. The worst part? These companies spend millions on marketing to convince you that their processed meat paste is somehow premium beef. But once you know what to look for, you'll never be fooled again. Let's start with number 8, Checkers and Rallies. These guys love to talk about their seasoned beef, but what they don't tell you is what that seasoning is hiding. Their patties are loaded with something called beef base, which sounds like it should be beef, but it's actually a mixture of hydrolyzed soy protein, corn syrup, and artificial flavoring. The actual beef content? Industry insiders say it's around 70% on a good day. But here's what really gets me. Their famous seasoning contains MSG, artificial smoke flavor, and enough salt to make your blood pressure monitor beep like a smoke alarm. One Baconzilla burger packs over 1,400 milligrams of sodium. That's more salt than you should eat in an entire day. The meat itself comes pre-formed and frozen, shipped in from processing plants where it's been sitting for weeks. By the time it hits your tray, that fresh burger has been through more stops than a cross-country bus route. And those crispy edges everyone raves about? That's not seasoning, that's the chemical preservatives burning off under the heat lamps. Real beef doesn't need to be pumped full of chemicals to taste good. The oil they cook in gets reused for days, sometimes weeks. I've seen fryer oil so dark it looked like motor oil, but the fries and onion rings kept coming out because changing oil costs money. Former employees have admitted that when meat shipments run late, they'll use patties that are well past their prime. The solution? Extra seasoning to mask the off taste. If your burger tastes overly salty or has a weird aftertaste, now you know why. Number 7 is Wendy's. And this one hurts because they built their reputation on fresh, never frozen beef. But fresh doesn't mean pure and never frozen doesn't mean never processed. Wendy's patties contain beef, sure, but they also contain water, salt, and natural flavoring. That natural flavoring is doing a lot of heavy lifting because it includes everything from yeast extract to hydrolyzed proteins that make the meat taste more beefy than it actually is. The real problem is their supply chain. While the beef might not be frozen when it arrives at the restaurant, it's been sitting in refrigerated trucks for days, sometimes over a week. By the time it reaches your local Wendy's, it's already starting to turn. Their square patties aren't just a marketing gimmick, they're a cost-cutting measure. Square patties are easier to mass-produce and stack, but they cook unevenly. The corners burn while the center stays undercooked, which is why Wendy's burgers often have that weird texture contrast. And let's talk about that Baconator. It's not just 2 beef patties, it's 2 processed meat discs held together with enough cheese product and bacon to hide the fact that the beef tastes like cardboard. The whole thing clocks in at over 950 calories and 2,100 milligrams of sodium. The fresh vegetables aren't much better. The lettuce comes pre-shredded in bags and sits in bins for hours. The tomatoes are picked green and gassed with ethylene to turn them red. That's not fresh, that's artificially ripened. But here's the worst part. Wendy's still refuses to sign agreements protecting farm workers from abuse. So while they're charging premium prices for quality ingredients, they're supporting a system that exploits the people who grow their food. Number 6 is Carl's Jr. and Hardee's, and these guys have turned burger making into a chemistry experiment. Their thick burgers are thick, all right. Thick with fillers, preservatives, and enough chemicals to make a lab technician nervous. Their beef contains something called beef flavor enhancer, which is basically MSG dressed up with a fancy name. It tricks your brain into thinking you're eating better beef than you actually are. The real beef content hovers around 65%, with the rest being water, soy protein, and binding agents. But here's what's really disgusting. They reuse their fryer oil for up to a week. That oil gets so rancid it starts smoking, but they keep using it because changing oil costs money. Your burger isn't just processed, it's cooked in rancid fat. The famous Star Burger is famous, all right. Famously fake. The patty is so thin and processed that it has the texture of a sponge. They pump it full of water and sodium phosphates to make it seem juicy, but you're basically eating a saltwater sponge with beef flavoring. And those hand-breaded chicken sandwiches? The chicken is injected with a sodium solution that makes up 15% of its weight. You're paying chicken prices for salt water and chemicals. The worst part is how they market themselves as premium fast food. Premium would be using actual beef, not processed meat paste. Premium would be fresh oil, not week-old grease. Premium would be real ingredients, not a chemistry set. Their Monster Thick Burger is a monster, all right. A monster of processed meat, artificial cheese, and enough sodium to pickle a cucumber. One burger contains over 1,300 calories and 2,800 milligrams of sodium. That's not a meal. That's a heart attack waiting to happen. Number 5 is Burger King, and their flame-grilled claim is about as real as their beef. Those grill marks aren't from flames. They're from a conveyor belt system that stamps fake grill marks onto processed patties. The Whopper might be their signature burger, but it's also their biggest lie. The patty contains beef, water, salt, and natural flavor. That natural flavor is doing overtime because the actual beef tastes like wet cardboard without it. But here's the real kicker. Burger King uses something called smoke flavoring to make their burgers taste grilled. It's a liquid chemical that gets sprayed onto the patties to simulate the taste of actual grilling. You're not tasting flame-grilled beef, you're tasting artificial smoke in a bottle. Their meat comes pre-formed and frozen despite claims of fresh preparation. The patties are so processed they don't even look like ground beef. They look like gray hockey pucks. The only reason they turn brown is because of the artificial coloring added during processing. The Impossible Whopper was supposed to be their healthy alternative, but it's loaded with more chemicals than their regular beef. At least with the beef version, you know you're eating processed meat. With the Impossible version, you're eating processed plants that have been engineered to bleed like meat. And those onion rings everyone loves? They're made with the same oil that's been frying fish, chicken, and everything else on the menu. Cross-contamination isn't a bug. It's a feature when you're trying to cut costs. The worst part is their kids' meals. They're feeding children processed meat paste and calling it a burger. Those small patties are even more processed than the adult versions because they need to cook faster and stay safe longer. Number 4 is Jack in the Box, and they've never recovered from their E. coli scandal in the 90s. But instead of improving their beef quality, they just got better at hiding the problems. Their 100% beef patties are technically beef, but they're also 30% water, salt, and binding agents. The actual meat content is so low that the patties would fall apart without chemical binders holding them together. But here's what's really disturbing. Jack in the Box still serves their burgers pink in the middle. With processed meat, that's not a sign of quality, it's a sign of danger. Ground beef should be cooked to 160-degree iron to kill bacteria, but their system prioritizes speed over safety. The Jumbo Jack is jumbo in size but tiny in actual beef content. Most of that bulk comes from water and fillers. You're paying for a big burger but getting a big sponge with beef flavoring. Their tacos are even worse. They're filled with a meat mixture that's more soy than beef. But people keep buying them because they're cheap and available 24/7. Convenience shouldn't come at the cost of your health. And let's talk about their breakfast burgers. Combining processed beef with processed eggs and processed cheese creates a trifecta of artificial ingredients. It's like eating a chemistry experiment wrapped in a tortilla. The oil situation is particularly bad at Jack in the Box. They use the same fryers for everything, so your burger is cooked in oil that's been used for fish, chicken, and those mysterious tacos. The cross-contamination is so bad that vegetarians can't eat anything fried there. Number 3 is White Castle, and their sliders are sliding right past any definition of real beef. These tiny burgers are big on chemicals and small on actual meat. White Castle's patties are so processed they don't even pretend to be real beef anymore. They're made from a mixture of beef scraps, soy protein, and enough preservatives to survive a nuclear winter. The actual beef content is estimated to be around 50%. But here's the disgusting part. Those holes in the patties aren't just for cooking. They're there because the meat mixture is so processed, it won't cook evenly without them. Real beef doesn't need holes punched through it to cook properly. The onions aren't fresh either. They're dehydrated onion flakes that get rehydrated with steam. So when you bite into a slider, you're getting processed meat, processed onions, and a bun that's more chemicals than wheat. And those pickles? They're so loaded with preservatives they could probably survive longer than the restaurant itself. The sodium content in just one pickle chip is enough to make your blood pressure spike. The worst part is how people eat these things, by the sack. One person can easily eat 6 to 8 sliders in one sitting, which means they're consuming massive amounts of processed meat, sodium, and chemicals. It's like playing Russian roulette with your digestive system. White Castle markets itself as America's first fast food chain, but they should be marketing themselves as America's first processed food experiment. These aren't burgers, they're edible science projects. Number 2 is Sonic Drive-In, and their burgers are about as authentic as their roller skating car hops. Most locations don't even have roller skates anymore, and their burgers don't have much beef either. Sonic's patties are loaded with water, salt, and something called beef base. That's more chemistry than cattle. The actual beef content varies by location, but industry insiders say it's rarely above 60%. The rest is filler designed to make you think you're eating more beef than you actually are. But here's what's really sketchy. Sonic's burgers are often microwaved to speed up service. That's right. Your grilled burger is actually nuked in a microwave. The grill marks are added afterward with a hot press to make it look authentic. Their supersonic cheeseburger is super in size, but not in quality. The patty is so thin and processed, it's basically beef-flavored cardboard. They load it up with sauce and cheese to hide the fact that the meat has no flavor. And those famous cherry limeades? They're made with high fructose corn syrup and artificial flavoring. You're washing down processed meat with processed sugar. It's a double dose of artificial ingredients. The tater tots are cooked in oil that's shared with everything else on the menu. So your tots taste like a mixture of chicken, fish, and whatever else has been fried that day. It's like a grease lottery where everyone loses. Sonic's breakfast burritos combine processed beef with processed eggs and processed cheese. It's processed food inception. Processed ingredients inside processed ingredients. Your digestive system doesn't know what to do with all those chemicals. And now for number 1, McDonald's. The Golden Arches have become the golden standard for processed meat masquerading as beef. McDonald's claims their quarter pounder is made with fresh beef, but fresh doesn't mean pure. Their patties contain beef, water, salt, and natural flavor. That natural flavor is working overtime because without it, their beef tastes like nothing. But here's the real scandal. McDonald's beef comes from cattle raised in feedlots where they're pumped full of hormones and antibiotics. By the time that beef reaches your burger, it's been through more chemical treatments than a swimming pool. The Big Mac is their signature burger, but it's also their biggest lie. Those 2 all-beef patties are more like 2 processed meat discs. The special sauce is just Thousand Island dressing with extra chemicals, and the sesame seed bun contains more preservatives than a mummy. McDonald's also uses something called pink slime in their beef, mechanically separated meat that's been treated with ammonia. They claim they stopped using it, but industry insiders say they just found new ways to process the same low-quality meat scraps. And those famous fries? They're cooked in oil that contains beef flavoring, which means they're not even vegetarian. But the beef flavoring isn't from real beef, it's from a lab. So vegetarians are accidentally eating fake beef flavor, while meat eaters are eating fake beef. The chicken McNuggets are even worse. They're made from mechanically separated chicken that's been formed into shapes and deep fried. It's like eating chicken-flavored Play-Doh. But here's what really gets me. McDonald's markets itself as family-friendly while serving children processed meat paste. Those Happy Meal burgers are even more processed than the adult versions because they need to cook faster and stay safe longer under heat lamps. The McDouble is their cheapest burger and you get what you pay for. The patties are so thin they're basically beef-flavored crackers. They're pumped full of water and salt to give them any semblance of flavor, but you're essentially eating seasoned cardboard. And let's talk about their breakfast menu. The Egg McMuffin combines processed beef with processed eggs and processed cheese on a processed English muffin. It's like they took everything artificial about fast food and crammed it into one sandwich. The worst part? McDonald's has the resources to serve real beef. They're the biggest burger chain in the world, but they choose to serve processed garbage because it's cheaper and has a longer shelf life. They're prioritizing profit over your health, and they're doing it with a smile and a catchy jingle. So what's all this processed meat doing to your body? Let me break it down for you, and it's not pretty. First, the sodium levels in these burgers are off the charts. Most contain 800, 1,000 to 200 milligrams of sodium per patty, and that's before you add cheese, pickles, or sauce. Your daily sodium limit should be around 2,300 milliliters, but one fast food burger meal can put you over that limit. All that sodium leads to water retention, bloating, and increased blood pressure. For guys over 40, this stuff is like playing Russian roulette with your cardiovascular system. Then there are the preservatives. Sodium nitrates, sodium phosphates, and other chemicals are linked to increased cancer risk. These aren't natural compounds your body knows how to process. They're industrial chemicals designed to extend shelf life. The processed meat itself is harder for your body to digest than real beef. Your digestive system has to work overtime to break down all those binding agents and fillers. That's why you feel sluggish and bloated after eating fast food. And don't even get me started on the hormones and antibiotics. The cattle used for these burgers are pumped full of growth hormones and antibiotics that end up in your system. These compounds can disrupt your natural hormone balance and contribute to antibiotic resistance. The fake beef is also loaded with omega-6 fatty acids from all the soy and corn products used as fillers. Too much omega-6 causes inflammation throughout your body, leading to joint pain, heart disease, and other chronic conditions. So what's the solution? Stop feeding these corporate machines your hard-earned money and your health. Look, I get it. Fast food is convenient, especially when you're working long hours or dealing with family responsibilities. But there are better options that won't destroy your health. Find a local burger joint that grinds their own beef daily. Yes, it might cost a few dollars more, but you're getting real food instead of processed garbage. Your body will thank you, and you'll actually taste what beef is supposed to taste like. If you must eat fast food, stick to places that at least pretend to care about quality. Five Guys uses fresh ground beef with no fillers. In-N-Out keeps their menu simple and their ingredients real. Shake Shack uses antibiotic-free beef and cooks it to order. But here's the best solution. Make your own burgers. Buy ground beef from a local butcher, form your own patties, and grill them yourself. You'll know exactly what's going into your food, and it'll taste better than anything these chains serve. And if you're a parent, please think twice before feeding your kids this processed garbage. Their developing bodies don't need all those chemicals and preservatives. Teach them what real food tastes like before they get addicted to artificial flavors. Look, I've just exposed 8 burger chains that are serving you processed meat paste and calling it beef. These companies are more concerned with profit margins than your health, and they're counting on you not asking questions about what you're eating. But knowledge is power. Now that you know the truth, you can make better choices for yourself and your family. If this video opened your eyes to what's really in your burger, do me a favor. Share it with someone who needs to see this. Your friends, your family, that coworker who hits McDonald's every lunch break. They deserve to know what they're really eating. And if you want more exposés like this, restaurants, food companies, and health scams that are ripping you off, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. The food industry has plenty more dirty secrets to expose. Remember, you vote with your wallet every time you buy food. Stop voting for companies that treat you like garbage. You deserve better than processed meat paste with artificial grill marks. The question is, are you going to keep feeding the machine, or are you going to demand real beef? The choice is yours, but choose wisely. Your health depends on it.